Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top tips on how you can deal with any aspect of stress in your life. I, for one, am definitely guilty of getting myself worked up, stressed, anxious, and very overwhelmed when certain things come my way. But I have been able to identify these 5 approaches that I'm going to share with you today that have really helped me manage that stress and anxiety in my life. Number 1. Rewire your perspective and rethink your reality. So, this approach is really about identifying and challenging those negative thought patterns that contribute to stress and anxiety. You then replace those irrational and exaggerated views with something that is more balanced and measured, essentially giving it a bit of a more realistic perspective. The thoughts that we have can have very powerful impacts on the way that we feel, whether that's positive or whether that is negative. This can then progress and influence our behaviour and feelings, and then in turn lead to increased levels of stress. If you're able to identify and understand when you're having these types of thoughts, you can train yourself to challenge these thoughts and replace them with more balanced, realistic views. I want to take you through 5 simple steps that will help you rethink your perspective and rewire your thought process. So the first thing that you need to do is identify the situation. What are those negative thoughts and where are they coming from? Was it a specific event? Was it something that someone said to you? Was it something that you read? Was it an experience that you went through of some kind? The next thing you need to do is note down your thoughts. So grab a notebook and write down all of those initial reactions and feelings that you had when you went through that experience. Completely unfilter them. Write down everything that goes through your head. The point is that you need to be honest with how it's making you feel so you can then address it appropriately. Next, you need to examine the evidence. This is the point where you need to objectively evaluate and review all of the things that you are feeling and determine whether they are based on objective facts or opinions and feelings. It's really important here that you consider alternate perspectives as well. Many different situations can be interpreted completely differently depending on the person that you speak to and the eyes that it is being viewed from. So then the next thing that you need to do is to replace those negative thoughts. Now you've looked at the situation from several perspectives, thought about it in a term of what would a friend say to me if I was to ask them about this? You should have a few more views that will allow you to offer a more balanced approach and deprioritize those negative ones that you originally started with. Once you've decided on 1 or 2 that are more positive, aligning to a more positive mindset, then you need to be actively practicing this, repeating the new positive thoughts to yourself, conditioning yourself to believe it, to understand it, to accept it. And it's important that you do this both during and after a stressful situation. It's a really good habit to get into, and I've really found that it has helped me rewire how I think about things, taking a step back, analysing the situation and really being quite critical and objective about things. And what I would also say is, don't just give up after the first hurdle. This is a conditioning exercise after all. It's not going to be plain sailing and it's not going to take just one try to get it right or for it to stick. It's something that you're going to need to work at continuously in order to reap the longer term benefits of. Number 2, keep calm and don't catastrophize. This is something I am so guilty of and is something I have definitely had to work on over the years, particularly when you are anxious and you are worried about the hundreds of possible impacts of something happening and what that could mean for you. It can be something that you can get quite bogged down with in your head. Catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion where an individual tends to ruminate on worst case scenarios or exaggerate the negative consequences of the situation. Obviously, we are the centre of our worlds in most cases, and naturally, we will typically attribute something personal to a situation which involves us, when actually it could be a multitude of reasons that have contributed to an experience that you have had with a person at a particular time. Let's say, for example, you are at work and go to speak to a colleague. You might ask them a question or for their help on something, let's say, and they give you quite a short and sharp response, which is typically out of their character, let's say. You walk away from that situation feeling quite confused, a little bit anxious, not really understanding why what has just happened has happened. These irrational thoughts start brewing, start putting things into your head and making you blow the situation significantly out of proportion, which then leads on to anxiety, despair, panic, all of those lovely feelings. In reality, that person may just have been having a bad day. You see them in a work environment, you have no real understanding of what actually is going on in their personal life. Something bad could have happened. They could have some stress at home that they don't want to share, and they're just having a bad day. Give the person a break. It's not all about you at the end of the day. If you get yourself stuck into this cycle of catastrophizing, it can be really hard to get yourself out of it. But here are a few key tips on how to manage this effectively. The first step is awareness and understanding and identifying when you were starting to catastrophize. Next, reality testing, looking objectively at the situation and understanding, really, is that a likely outcome or is that a likely rationale? More often than not, the answer is probably no. Step 3, decatastrophizing. Ask yourself, will this realistically happen? Again, the answer is probably no. You need to purposely replace these thoughts with something more realistic and more rational. Next, this is where you use my first tip and apply cognitive reconstruction. Use the tips that I shared with you to reframe those thoughts into more rational and realistic ones. Tip number 3. Grateful minds attract happier vibes. Now, gratitude is something that I have spoken about quite a lot in other videos that I have done, and it's something that I am very passionate on focusing on in my life to both force me to reflect on all of the wonderful things that I have, but similarly I do also find that I get benefits from a stress release perspective, and I have found that it's positively impacted my mental health as a result. Studies show that expressing gratitude can trigger the release of dopamine and serotonin, which can boost your mood and promote positive emotions. It can really help you shift your mindset from something that can be quite negative to very positive. If you embrace the approach and the mindset of being grateful and appreciative of things, this will help you have a more healthy and positive mindset and outlook on life. One thing that I have found has really helped me since being on my gratification journey is every morning when I'm journaling, I take 3 to 5 minutes max, writing down 3 things that I am grateful for in that day. And I do this every single morning as part of my routine. And although it's not necessarily easy to do every single day, I have found that being consistent with this has really helped in promoting those positive thoughts and more of a positive mindset. Number 4, don't strain out the positive. So what is straining out the positive, you say? So let's say you have a colander. And in that colander, you have loads of different sized vegetables. You have peas, you have sweet corn, you have carrots, broccoli, anything you want. And your positive thoughts are anything that is small and able to sift through the holes of that colander. All that's remaining are the larger vegetables, i.e. the negative thoughts. This way of thinking can also be known as mental filter bias, and it's essentially where people ignore all of the good in their life and focus on the negative. I'm sure you probably know 1 or 2 people out there that are a bit like that. Having this way of approaching and thinking about things and introducing this pattern into your life can increase your level of stress as a result. It really amplifies those negative experiences whilst also minimizing those positive ones too. It can lead to feelings of discouragement, hopelessness, demotivation, also impacting your self-esteem, with the person typically focusing on flaws and things that they have shortcomings in. In serious cases as well, if it gets out of hand, it can also develop into more serious anxiety disorders. There are some simple steps though that can help you manage this mental filtering and allow you to focus on the more positive things in your life. The first step of this is awareness and recognizing when you are engaging in mental filtering. You then really need to try and push yourself to have a balanced perspective on the situation rather than immediately going down the negative route. Utilize cognitive restructuring and practicing gratitude to help you with being objective about the situation, then focusing on the things that are positive in your life and that you should be grateful for. Seek support from friends, family, a therapist, someone that will be able to check you if you are starting to exhibit signs of mental filtering. And then finally, celebrate the small wins. As I said about my tip with gratitude and writing down things that you're grateful for, celebrate the small wins. Write those small wins down in your journal. Whether that be you got a free coffee, or you taught yourself something new, or you stood up for something that you believed in. All of those small things, if you take the time to acknowledge them and give them their moment, then they will become important, positive moments that you can take forward and remember and have positive associations with. And then finally, be your own best friend, not your worst critic. Life is hard, and there is always someone in this world that is looking to knock you down a peg or two, give you a bit of a hard time, or knock your confidence. You need to be looking after yourself, championing number one, and practicing some self-compassion. If you are able to treat yourself with kindness, compassion, and a non-judgmental attitude, particularly in a tough time, research shows that it can be a really powerful tool in not only reducing stress, but also improving your overall well-being. There are so many benefits that you will notice if you were able to give yourself some level of self-compassion. The key ones for me are reducing negative emotions, increasing your resilience, enhancing your self-worth, encouraging mindfulness, and also strengthening your social connections. This is something that will have to start from within. You are the only person that can unlock the key to self-compassion. I am someone that has always been very critical of my life. I am my number one worst critic and always pick apart every single aspect to essentially try and make sure that I am doing the best that I possibly can. But at times, this has been quite a negative way of me looking at things and way of approaching things, and it hasn't necessarily had the best impact. Me being able to take on board these tips and embody them into my life has really helped me to develop, grow, learn more about myself, and also be happier. I hope that you enjoyed these tips, and I hope that they help you on your journey to reduce stress levels in your life. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.